Welcome to the Championship Fantasy Football League podcast. Here is your host, Shipwreck's crew.
Welcome to the podcast, guys. Thanks for joining me today. It's going to be our Week 2 recap show. Today on the show, much like last week, we'll go over the pools. We'll go over the standings update, go over the Week 2 recap, and then some transaction recap this week. A little added something this week. It's kind of Nick's idea. And then I'll since I'm going to do this podcast on Saturdays going forward, so I'll have a little insight on what happened on the Thursday night games. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So here we go.
Pools update.
All right, so here we go. Pool update. Let's go to the pool tab, take a look at the standings. As you can see, Nick Seba is the leader in the clubhouse right now at 24 games. He got 14 games guessed correctly last week. Quite impressive. Only missed 2 games. Let's look a little more detailed here as we go to the picks for last week. There we are. So as you can see, Nick only missed the Miami at Chargers game. He had the Chargers in that one. That's what I think I picked that as well. Sure did. And then he had Dallas beating Denver. That was kind of shocker. Dallas took a really weird approach to playing Denver, trying to throw the ball of all things and not run the ball to Ezekiel. What the hell? But yeah, great week for Nick. 14 games guessed correctly. Pretty dang impressive. Some of his surprise picks that really put him over the top of the other people was picking Atlanta to beat Green Bay. That was kind of a surprise. As well as the Detroit game over the Giants. Didn't see that one coming either personally. I guess the Giants offense has been quite anemic. But 2 good, solid picks there that at least caught me off guard. So Nick takes the lead in the pick'em with 14 this week. Pretty impressive. We did have Chess right behind him, his rival Chess, with 13 guessed correctly last week. So another strong showing there. So these two are neck and neck in the pick'em with lots right behind. It's still anyone's game. No real favorites yet. Let's pop over to the survival pool really quick. Let's see. Who did we lose this week? I think we only had one victim this past week. Oh, well, you guys get a sneak peek at my pick this week. I'm going with Miami. Miami to beat the Jets. I didn't go with the easy one, but let's go Dolphins. So, yeah, everyone looks like they got their survival picks in this week except for Wash. Get your picks in, Wash, for the survival pool. But we only lost Matthew Guerra last week. He tried to be a homer and pick the 49ers for his survival pick last week, but was not to be. So we lose Matt last week. He gone.
Standings update.
All right, on to the standings. So let's take a look at the standings, where we're at. This is Fantasy's Finest. First up, I am the leader in the clubhouse in my conference and my division, 4-0. 4-0. One of the few undefeated teams left after this past week. We'll get into some of the others. Actually, let's do it right now. We got the only other undefeated we have is Humble Domination. Andrew, the new guy. New guys last year had a hot streak in our league last year, and Andrew off to a hot start this week at 4-0 as well. As far as the rest of Fantasy's Finest, Solus Saint dropped the 2. The 2 lost to me last week, so I beat both my division rivals. But 2-2 in the middle with Seb at 0-4. Come on, Seb, pick it up, bro. You're going to fall behind just like last year. Moving on to Vinegar Strokes, we got Vicious and Delicious now at 2-2. DP Hit Squad at 2-2 after an impressive showing last week. So this division definitely up for grabs. Marshall at 1-3 can't be slept on. I think this will be a very competitive division this year. Should be interesting to see who comes out on top there. Wall Street, we got 3-1 ... 3-1 Biloxi Beach Bomb Squad. Both teams having pretty good showings to start the year, both towards the top of points scored so far this year. So pretty impressive showing for those two. And Nick down there at 0-4. I want to say he's up there in league points against. If he's not the top guy, he's close to it. And then we move on to Poor Man's 12th. Again, Andrew at 4-0. D's Nuts at 3-1. With Team to Beat starting off at 0-4. Rough start for him. So we got, 3 teams 0-4 to start the year. So they got some picking up to do. I think 2 of them square off this week, but more on that later. So definitely some people getting off the schneid this week. All right, guys, and so last week I didn't go over this, but this is under the Reports Power Rank tab. I find this quite interesting. It's the efficiency rating, and what the efficiency rating for each person is for the points possible for each team every week. How many of those points did you get by starting the right people and benching the right people? So the efficiency rating kind of gives you an idea of who's making the right decisions, who's not making the right decisions. So we got Biloxi Beach Bomb Squad continuing his impressive performance really all around the fantasy league so far this year at 94.9%, getting the most out of his team there, with Sola Saint right behind him at 94.4. DP and Humble Domination right there at 90% as well. So four guys in the 90% range. Pretty impressive management there. And then we got down here at the bottom, the Cleansing and Mean Machine haven't quite gotten off to the best start. Maybe it's injuries, maybe it's just not picking the right guys. But definitely could see some improvement there in the efficiency
Weekly
rate.
recap.
All right, so now on to the week 2 recap. So the game of the week, closest one anyway, was Humble Domination versus D's Nuts. Andrew squeaked this one out 98 to 94. Pretty close game, pretty contested contest here. As you can see, he was definitely, Andrew was leaded. What kind of fucking word is that? He was led by Tom Brady at 30.78 points. Definitely had a monster day against the Saints, to be expected, and that really carried his team to the victory here. Other notes from this game, actually, Tom Brady was the highest scoring player started this week in our league, so 30.78 doesn't beat the point total from last week of Kareem Hunt, but still an impressive number all the same. D's Nuts had a decent day, posting 94.52 points. A good overall performance everywhere. Stephon Diggs hurt mightily by the loss of Sam Bradford, but otherwise the team performed pretty well. Just went up against a guy that scored a little bit higher this past week. So on to the second game. I'm going to go over to my matchup here against Michael. I beat him 98 to 87. Just continuing to dominate Fantasy's finest as per usual. I was really lifted by Ty Montgomery, C.J. Anderson, my running backs just pulling me through despite Ezekiel Elliott really pooping the bed against the Broncos this past week. Panthers defense scoring big again against Buffalo, winning 9-3. So that was a big help as well. Despite losing Jordy Nelson, despite losing didn't actually lose Jimmy Graham. It just looks like I lost him. God, he's been a disappointment this year. But yeah, so was able to survive those. Michael really is feeling it with the Jordan Howard slump coming out the gates. Decent performances all around from the rest of the team. Shady kind of had a rough day against that Panthers defense, but not a necessarily bad performance there. Just tough luck, Michael. Tough luck. Better luck to you next week, good sir. All right, so moving on to matchup number 3, I'm going to go over to Nick and Chess. Now, this was the game that everyone was listening to the smack all week. Everyone was waiting to see what was going to happen. There may or may not have been a trade for a first-round pick put on the line on this one. But it was a heck of a game, really. Nick had a pretty good showing at 92 points, but Chess just took home the team of the week with 129. I believe that was higher than last week's team of the week, so the leader in the clubhouse for this year's highest scoring game at 129. Pretty impressive performance there. Led heavily by the Bucks. 29 points from the Bucks defense against the Bears. The Bears offense is just atrocious. The Bucks came out to play. That really helped a lot, as well as another big game from Kareem Hunt and a big waiver acquisition for him with Javorius Allen scoring 16. So overall, pretty dang good performance from Chess's team. Even after his trades last week, still going strong. Nick, on the other hand, Cam Newton hasn't been living up to at least my expectations. I expected a good year. I think that shoulder's bothering him a lot. But Nick really had a decent performance all around. Mike Evans scored him 15. Julio scored him 10. Gillislee got him to 12. Newton and Jonathan Stewart kind of were the letdowns here, but overall a pretty good performance. Just tough luck there. Moving on to matchup 3, we got Vicious and Delicious versus the Cleansing. So pretty non-interesting game here. 96 to 66, another blowout against Sebastian. Really, what's killing Sebastian right now is DeMarco Murray and Adrian Peterson not living up, but the heavy wide receiver draft strategy for Sebastian just not working out 2 years in a row. T.Y. Hilton's missing Andrew Luck. Green's had a rough start, but maybe those start to turn around for him. We'll see. Steelers defense has been one of the lone bright spots on Sebastian's team, scoring 17 points last week. Another good matchup for like the next 3 or 4 weeks. Definitely jealous that you took them from me, Seb. But they should continue to do well for him next week. Kirk Cousins also kind of let him down. Over on Ryan's side, pretty just solid performances all around. Ravens defense just dominating so far this year. Scored him 19 points. Got good production from the running backs, wide receivers. Terrell Pryor, start to worry a little bit if you're Ryan, probably, if Terrell Pryor is going to live up to the expectations everyone had for him going into this year. I think he could still pull it through. But a good win here for Ryan. Moving on to the next game. Matthew Haynes taking on the other Matthew, Matt Guerra. Close game here, 91 to 86, but Haynes comes out on top over Guerra. Matthew, despite disappointment from the Rams defense getting him in the negatives, was able to overcome that. The decent game from his wide receivers, but Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon, Fournette just doing work, keeping the team afloat with that solid trio at running back despite losing David Johnson last week, still doing work. And Guerra got good performance from Breeze, but Crowell's kind of been a disappointment this year. Beckham's coming off the injury. Beckham will get rolling, though. Corey Davis, I think, got hurt early in that game, so that kind of put Guerra behind the 8 ball. Gronk played like Gronk, and the Broncos defense played well for him. It was really just those wide receivers, running backs letting Matt down. Still put up a respectable 86. Just wasn't enough this week against Matt's trio of running backs. And on to the final game here. We got Mean Machine versus DP Hit Squad. Absolute obliteration here, 100 to 68. DP takes home the double W. Really showing big after having a rough week 1. DP Hit Squad bounces back. Dave's probably pretty stoked over there. Devonta Freeman, Carlos Hyde, the running backs coming through for him. Aaron Rodgers having a decent day. Manny Sanders with the double touchdowns. Very nice to see there. Sammy Watkins didn't do much for him last week, but this week, as we know at this point, he had quite the good week. I believe he started him. We'll get more on that here in a second. But Dave's team definitely looking a lot brighter than it was last week. And then Marshall over here, Phillip Rivers, his late-round quarterback, doing okay, but Lev Bell not living up to his lofty expectations. 9 points, still solid. But really where the letdown happened was the Cooks, Fitzgerald, Tate wide receiver trio. Definitely a letdown with Austin Hooper. Just not seeing any looks in that Falcons offense either. Definitely hurt there. Defense played decent enough with 17 points. Really, he's just got to get that. Le'Veon Bell will come around. We all know he will. So that's going to help a ton. Dalvin Cook looks good. I just think those trio of wide receivers, they should turn it around. And that's just where he's got to figure it out. But a good win for Dave this week, and Marshall just not performing this past week.
Transaction report.
All right, so this week I'm actually going to look at some of the transactions that we saw from this past week through waivers and whatnot, kind of go through the highlights of what we saw here. So let me see. Yep, we're in the right spot here. You can see some of my blind bid requests, but that's okay. But you see here highlighting J.J. Nelson for 27 was the highest paid acquisition this week. Michael Payne up big to swap out Cardinals wide receivers, followed by Darren Sproles, picked up by D's Nuts, needed some running back help. He should be a solid number 2, but based off of usage last week, Latavius Murray looks like a bum. Kenny Stills, surprising to me anyway, 9 to pick up. Kenny Stills dropping the Chargers defense, which looks even smarter now that they lost Verrett today on IR. I paid up the next highest after that for Jason Witten. I needed some tight end help, dropped Ted Ginn. I thought Ted Ginn would see more usage this year, but it hasn't seemed to be the case. Jermaine Kearse with a decent pickup there from Marshall for 6, dropping the useless Austin Hooper. At least right now he's useless. But getting him some wide receiver help there. And then P. Ryan surprisingly only going for 2. I thought he might go for more, but that's a sneaky good pickup from Matthew there. Alan Hearns for $1, pretty good bargain there, and some other dollar pickups, so pretty good. I think Samaje P. Ryan was definitely the value pick out of this week's waivers. And then the trade went down. Let me go down. There was a trade that happened. I'm trying to see it on here, but it's buried in all this other. Oh, wait, here we go. Yeah, so Matthew traded Matthew Stafford and Chris Hogan to Nick within Wall Street's, the city that never sleeps. The trades that just keep on rolling through that division. But Matthew Stafford, Chris Hogan for Cam Newton and Kelvin Benjamin. I think this is a pretty fair trade. Nick may be giving up on the Panthers after watching Cam Newton last week. But I think it's probably a pretty fair trade for both teams. Some other pickups throughout the week. Nothing too noticeable, I don't think. Yeah, nothing too exciting. I was stoked to get the Chiefs defense off of waivers after Chess dropped them, surprisingly. And then Seb grabbing Orleans Darkwa, who for Eddie Lacy, total bust there. But Orleans Darkwa grasping for straws at a starting running back, but maybe it'll work there. All right, in my final segment today, I was just going to briefly go over where we're looking at the scores after the Thursday night games, because we had a high-scoring Thursday night. As you can see, I got a whopping 1.7 points. Thanks, Cooper Kupp. What the fuck, man? I thought this dude was Goff's favorite target, and he gets 1.7 when Robert Woods has like 100 fucking yards, and Sammy Watkins has a monster day. Todd Gurley scoring touchdowns like fucking crazy. Can we give the ball to Cooper Kupp? Nope, guess not. No points for him this week. I think it's safe to say that you'll be seeing Cooper Kupp on the waiver wire this week. Moving on to another game where they had some good scoring here. 12.8 points from the fucking kicker, Greg Zorline, getting Seb off to a hot start that he needed, so hopefully that leads him to victory here. The big story, though, DP Hit Squad starting the week off with two players, Sammy Watkins, Carlos Hyde, both had monster nights. Starts off with 44 points from two players. Vicious and Delicious definitely in the hole after that start. He's going to have some major ground to make up after that start for Dave. And then over here you got Matthew against D's Nuts. Freaking Todd Gurley just went Super Saiyan and just put the haymaker down onto D's Nuts to start the week with 32.9. Matthew did have the Rams defense going, scored him only 1.04 points, so there's that saving grace for Wash. But Wash definitely going to need a strong showing all around to come back from that monster outing from Todd Gurley. Other than that, no other teams had any players going, so that's pretty much it for this week. Thanks for joining the podcast today, and good luck to everybody this weekend. All right, peace.
Thank you for watching the CFFL podcast. See you next time, bitches.